You're creating a dream-like, authentic brand all by yourself. Hi, I was you in 2020. And you might be feeling a little bit lost when it comes to maintaining this online presence that everybody seems to want, and for good reason. You definitely see and understand the value of an online presence. And it truly is just the dream life that you really want. The life of driving a big impact with a small but mighty service, product, or offering. I want to tell you something. It doesn't have to be hectic or difficult. I got caught in a hamster wheel in 2020 when I started an herbalism business. I constantly felt like I had to create content and run the business and create products. And with a marketing background, I was just creating content all the time, and I kind of lost sight of the business altogether. And this is simply backwards. In today's video, I want to explain to you my step-by-step method for the best content marketing strategy to enable you to get way more bang for your content and maximize the efforts of your time. So before we jump deep into it, I want to tell you about some free resources that I have that could really help you out alongside this video to organize the back end of your systems. So whether you are in need of more of a content calendar, I have a 3-piece bundle that's all lives in the Google Drive. And you can click that link below and you'll get those templates right to your inbox. Some of them are even set up for a year. So that is going to be super helpful for you. Or if you need more of like the big picture, like you don't even know what you need, but you just need the thing. I have the Content Marketing Master spreadsheet. It has helped a lot of businesses thus far who have downloaded from my YouTube channel. So thank you so much if you are one of those viewers. It includes 4 tabs that really help you see a bird's eye view of your whole business, what's going on, how do you manage it, develop a cadence, content ideation, all of that. So that is also in the description for you if you want to check that out as well. Okay, so the first step for developing your superpower content marketing strategy as a one-woman show, running a creative, small, authentic business is to understand your goals. I think at this point, I just sound like a broken record, and I'm so sorry if you watch my videos every week because I pretty much say the word goal, I don't know, 20 times every video. But along with this step of understanding your goal, I want you to also formulate a content strategy. So if your goal is to grow, right? That's a very typical basic goal for a business. Where do you want to grow? How do you want to grow? And do you want to enjoy what you do in the process to make yourself grow? These are all very critical questions because I thought I wanted to grow in 2020 on social media, but it turns out that social media is not really the platform for me when it comes to enjoyment. I prefer to create videos and also maintain my shop and promote on Pinterest. That's actually what I do now for this business that I'm referring to. It's called Brilliant Fit if you want to check it out. I do astrology prints and stuff over there. But really, really think about the actual act of doing the thing that you think you want to do and that aligns with your goal. So if you want to be on social media, can you actually visualize yourself maintaining a social media presence? And if so, how are you going to do that? So when you download the Content Marketing Master spreadsheet, I actually include a content cadence and pillar development tab in there that outlines a template for a strategy for posting 5 days a week. So if that is going to help you, I would definitely refer to that in this step. But say you do want to do this on social media, the best thing to do is to categorize the kinds of content into pillars. Now, this is a bit of a disclaimer. If you are already seeing success on social media, you know what works, you are well versed in kind of your industry, and you know what your audience wants to hear and know, that is going to be a good indicator of developing what pillars are going to be best for you. So this is very easy when you think about genres of music, right? We don't listen to a rock song and call it hip hop. We categorize that as rock, even though there are a million artists and a million different songs under the genre of rock. So if you are already seeing the success on social media that you want to maybe even just capitalize on, try to outline the genres and the pillars. Genres and pillars are basically interchangeable here, of what is doing the best and the content that you actually enjoy creating. This can be a little bit more strategic if you want to be leading people into some sort of offering. And by that, I would highly suggest that you incorporate authority-driven content. Now, what is authority-driven content? This is the genre of content that is actually going to build trust, connection, and have people see you as the go-to expert for whatever you have authority in. This is content like how-tos and how my client got X amount of blank in blank time frame. Or if you don't have that proof of concept yet with other clients, you can say how I achieved X by doing X in X time frame. What authority content does really well is it makes it known that you have been in the industry and you have experience in the industry. Educational content, I wouldn't say is as important, only because it can really be categorized into authority, but emphasized with your experience to make it just that much more powerful. You might say, okay, Liz, let's use me as an example. I own a content production and marketing business, right? That's Essence Presents. I do photography, video, and content marketing stuff. Someone might say, okay, why don't you give me an example of educational content in that respect? What I could do for educational content is what is content marketing and how to use content marketing in your business. That's a very educational way to categorize that kind of content. But let's change it to an authority piece of content. Instead of saying what is content marketing and how does it work, we're going to say how my content marketing strategy resulted in this amount of time, or resulted in this after I learned this. The reason that that's more powerful is because it adds my experience into the formula. And experience is the one thing that you only have. Nobody else can match your exact experience in your life, ever, 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 ever. That is your most valuable superpower, is to really capitalize on your experience and talk about it in your content. I'm learning how to do this more, but that's exactly how you would basically build a content strategy, by building these genres, understanding what is already working on your channels if you're at that point. If not, start by incorporating a bit of authority-driven content. And if you're looking to build a content marketing strategy that leads people to something that you offer, definitely consider incorporating authority-driven content, because that is going to tell people how you work and how your method gets other people results. I think it's important to say that I've been in the marketing industry for 5 years, and for 4 of those years, I've been a social media manager, content strategist, and a lot of my content strategies have revolved around the pillars of education, authority, and inspirational content. Now, there's literally endless ways to build a content strategy, but the best way to start is by understanding your mission and what makes you unique. If you have an intention with your content and you really want to actually lead people into your space and like your email list, I think authority content is always going to be necessary. So at least always having that one pillar dedicated to authority content, I think, is key. But when it comes to education, as I said, you can kind of incorporate that into authority. But inspirational content is something that I do want to touch on a little bit. Inspirational content, I would say, is somewhat more along the lines of the results that you've given people, the life improvement that has happened from your services, your products, and things like that. Testimonial content. So this is all going to revolve around what people are saying about your product, the actual real life lived results of your offering, service, or product. Now, this is so important because this is what ultimately builds the trust to have people then convert. Because seeing somebody else's transformation, in a sense, gives other people the idea that they can have the exact same transformation if they work with you or if they use your product. And that's basically the same thing of having a case study tab on your website or having a testimonial tab on your website. Now, I don't want to leave my beginners hanging. I know so deeply how frustrating it can be when you don't have the exact experience that one would be looking for in terms of building this inspirational content genre as part of your content strategy. So what I do recommend is, as much as you possibly can, talk about the results that your product or service would give somebody. Now, very creative ways of doing this is by telling a story that's hypothetical. You could say, Sarah had this, and this, and this as her problems. She was dealing with a lot of blank, obviously the struggle that your product or service offering solved. And this is how my product or your service helped her achieve her goal of blank. or helped her combat, come out of, overcome, all of those words and all of those ways of explaining that, even if it's hypothetical, even if it's not real, are still giving people the picture of what you offer and how it works. So that is key for the inspirational content. Okay, so we understand the goal. Your goal, right? This is hypothetical. Your goal is to grow. So we're going to build a content strategy around your goal, but we're also going to make sure that we think thoroughly about what that actually looks like. If you say you want to grow on social media, think about what that actually means. You're going to be maintaining a social media content calendar. You're going to create content, produce content. That's something I do for people because I know how frustrating it can be when you want to create content, but everything looks like an iPhone photo. And I'm a photographer, so that really helps people. So think thoroughly about these step by steps because that's going to be important. Ultimately, if you're not going to enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to last. And I want this to last for you. We are here for longevity. The next step to building the best content marketing strategy for your creative, authentic business is to pick your longevity cadence. So we're still talking about the content piece of this, but of course, this video is about the content marketing strategy for your business. So depending on what you chose, whether it is to focus on short form social media platforms or long form platforms like YouTube and linking your blog to Pinterest because it shows up in search, we are going to define the cadence in which you are going to create this content that is actually sustainable. When we say longevity, we mean sustainable because we don't want you to invest your time in something and it's all working out. You knew what the vision was before you even started it. You knew it was for you. But the other thing that can actually mess up your progress is if you give yourself a high cadence in the beginning of like content that you want to put out and you can't maintain it properly based on the time you have. So I have actually a lot of videos about time management on this channel. I have a Google Calendar 101 video. I also have a time management strategy for solopreneurs. So definitely check those two videos out. I will leave them linked below. But these videos are definitely going to help you understand how much time you actually have to dedicate to content marketing. If you work full time and you are working on your business just full time, say you're a candle maker and you create candles literally all day, every day, you want to understand that content marketing can be a full time job as it is for me. But if you want to maintain it and you want to come into your content authentically, you want to be a part of it. You don't want to just delegate it to somebody else completely. You're going to have to make some time for it. And I know that that can be difficult and frustrating, but it's not as difficult as it seems. And I am actually in the process of working on a content batch episode where I take you through kind of my process for content batching, which I believe is pretty key for you if you are somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to work with, but we'll save that for another day. So with this longevity cadence, you have to basically start by understanding how much extra time you have to dedicate to content marketing. You start by knowing the free time that you're willing to give up to content marketing. And I don't want to say give up as much as I want to say invest, but at the end of the day, you are going to have to focus because if you want this to run on a sustainable, longevity driven cadence, you're going to have to dedicate a specific amount of time at least once a month. And I say once a month because if you're somebody like me and you don't want to be bothered with recording content every week, like if you do that, kudos to you because that's insane. But if you're somebody like me, you don't want that for your life, you're going to just have to figure out what works for you in terms of time. You have this number in mind. Let's say it's 5 hours a week that you can give up to content marketing. So with 5 hours a week, that would be 20 hours a month. So when you think about it in that way, 20 hours a month, okay, that's like a part-time job, right? And say you do it super, super sustainably. This is just an idea to throw out. You just do 1 hour every Monday through Friday at either the beginning of the day or the end of the day. That's super, super sustainable for most people. We could start out with just that as an example. With 20 hours a month, we want to also understand how many platforms you are on, how many platforms you want to be on and maintain. Now, at 20 hours a month, just based on my expertise, I would say you don't want to be on more than 3 platforms. And that's including 1 long form platform and 2 short form platforms. The reason I say that is because long form content should take up, I guess, 50% of that time. And then if you're also doing the short form stuff, you're going to want to repurpose that content on both channels, at least to start. If you've never done anything like this, trust me, you're not going to want to do all different types of content on all the different platforms. Yes, every platform has their own format that they prefer, but it's going to be way easier for you to just repurpose your content because we don't want anything to go unseen, hidden. Basically, what you're doing with repurposing is you're giving yourself the chance to reinvigorate or reestablish that conversation with people to the point where you can then have more to say about it or explain it in a different way. So, this could even look like coming up with a theme for the month and then basing everything off of that theme. That's a form of repurposing. What I really mean is like if you do a carousel post that's like, here are 5 content strategies to use, you're going to want to repurpose that into a reel. If that's part of your strategy, you're going to want to explain or deep dive into one of those strategies in a reel. That's one reel already. You have 5 more to create just from that one piece of carousel content or blog content. So this is where it can get really, really beneficial for you. And if you're like me, what I do is I base everything off of my long form content. I have 4 pieces of long form content every month, and I'm actually currently experimenting with not even doing anything on social media. I'm only looking at YouTube right now. And what that's helping me do is establish that foundation to then add on more later on. So that's also another little tidbit that you can also do to really establish this longevity cadence and understand what really works for you with time. You really won't know until you test it out. So give yourself 1 month to test out a cadence that you think is sustainable for you. And as I said, a really good rule of thumb is like if you have 20 hours a month, that's literally 1 hour a day every weekday. You're not going to want to try to maintain more than 3 platforms of content. And you're also going to want to repurpose the content that you do create on the long form platforms for the short form platforms. So in terms of the best content strategy, this is actually what I would recommend is being on 1 long form platform, 2 short form platforms. Hopefully one of those short form platforms is Pinterest. It really depends on your industry. I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but Pinterest can be considered a short form platform, but more than that, it's a search engine. So what you're going to want to do is really strategically and intentionally put in keywords that are searchable so that people are actually finding your content and you can then lead them to your website with every post or lead them to your blog with every post. This is how it works so well is when you, again, are creating this long form piece of content and then you create little snippets out of them. And they don't even have to be like identifiable across the board. You can make one long form piece of content serve you in so many different ways where it's unnoticeable. There are so many ways to do that through graphic design and making your copy different in each one, using different words, making it unidentifiable, but really speaking about the same thing. It's all about repeating the thing that you do in different ways so that people get the big picture. But really, what you're doing is you're making it more nuanced in your content and driving them to the same simple big picture of what you do. I hope that last sentiment really made sense because that one sentiment really helped me understand that all content serves a purpose to one big thing. And when you think of it that way, it's a lot easier to come up with your content marketing strategy. Okay, so here is the golden last key point that I'm going to really expand on with this best content marketing plan for creatives and authentic businesses. And this is plan, create, edit, and publish. So when we are thinking about content creation in general, what it really, really comes down to is these 4 steps. And this is kind of my method of really streamlining everything so that it just makes sense. It's sensible to your calendar, it's sensible to your strategy, and it can be incorporated pretty much in anybody's day routine. It all makes sense. Now, here's how I personally do this. What I do is I plan for 1 week out of the month for the next month. So, right, the first week of January, I was planning for February's content, which is actually this. Right now, I am in the create step because I'm recording all the videos. So, I do planning 1 week, I do creating the next week, I do editing the next week, and then I publish the next week. Now, with this strategy of content marketing and doing this for your business, I've found that this is the best and most hands-off way to manage everything. When you really get down and dirty into it, the heaviest week is really the creation week, because when you think about planning, like most people, I'm just sitting there with my journal, and I'm also just sitting there with the spreadsheet open, and I'm writing all of my ideas down. And in the planning phase, you're going to want to look at what is doing really well on your platforms. Look into the analytics. Look specifically at analytics that have to do with retention, meaning how long somebody is engaged with your content, and click through, which is if they even click on your piece of content. Now, there are different kind of mechanisms for this in different platforms, but in YouTube specifically, it's going to be called your click-through rate and your average duration watch time, something like that. You're going to want to look at these metrics, because what this is really saying, and we're not talking vanity metrics. Vanity metrics would be followers and subscribers, likes. Those literally don't matter at the end of the day. It's really all about how your content is hitting. And when you're a business, you have an intention, you have a mission. And this mission should be to engage people into what you do. If you're watching this video, you want to utilize your content to drive your business into more success, more engagement online, and all of that. And so with that, we have to be more strategic than somebody who's just winging it on their content or on their YouTube or social media. So you're going to want to, in this planning phase, pay attention to retention rates, click-through rates. Reach does matter, but it's really not the most important. Watch time would also be the most important in terms of video content. So retention is really about the percentage that comes from the majority of people watching your video. If you have a retention rate that's under 50%, that's where you can improve. Retention rates, where people watch 70% or more of a video, that means if your video is this long, they've watched it up to about here, and the video is here, that means that you're in a sweet spot, and you should definitely capitalize on whatever content that was. The subject matter, the way you said it, something about that video was highly engaging, and comments and things like that will give you more insight into what actually was resonating with people. So this is how you plan out content. Other things that you can do with planning out content is going on Google and typing in your niche or the thing that you do, looking in Google suggestions and seeing the questions being asked about the subject matter that you offer and you do. Creating videos that are exactly the title to those Google suggestions is another way to plan content. Now, the second week, create, is exactly what I said. It's somewhat the easiest, but also the hardest, because you have to be on, and this is the time that you're talking and or creating the content, the B-roll. So like making sure your hair is washed and making sure you got everything ready for that. That is going to be your create week. Now, right now I'm in the create week, and I have been making videos yesterday, the day before, and I have one more video to create tomorrow to make 4 videos for the month. Now, when you really think about that, that's like 4 days out of the month that I'm actively creating content. And as of right now, I'm not creating any more content. But if I had a social media strategy, which some of you might want, this would also be the time that I would be creating B-roll content or more talking head videos for social. So you're going to want to also consider that. Maybe on the weekends you dedicate to like B-roll and things like that. And maybe on your lunch break, you dedicate to making long form videos like this. The edit phase is going to be the time where you, of course, edit the content. Now, I know a lot of you are not video editors, and that's what I find crazy about this whole culture of creating content. It's almost like this one little skill just exploded, and now everybody is expected to do that to compete, you know? This week of editing is when I'm literally living in Final Cut Pro. That's the tool that I use. If you have an Apple Mac, you can use iMovie. It is honestly just as good. It doesn't really matter what video editor you use. I also actually use a hybrid of Descript and Final Cut Pro. Those are my 2 editing platforms. And the reason I love Descript is because it records my audio into the mic that I'm using right now. And I can literally in one click get rid of all the little spaces and all the little pauses that I essentially just do naturally when I record. So that's really helpful. And then I always throw it into Final Cut to do the final graphic overlays and the things like that. So that is what the editing week looks like for me. If you had the social media stuff going on, you would basically be making drafts in your phone of all the B-roll that you recorded the week before. Now, publishing week is, of course, the easiest thing. You basically just schedule out your posts. Now, you don't need a scheduler to do this. At least with YouTube, Instagram, I know for sure. Facebook, I know for sure. Twitter, I'm not so sure. Pinterest, I know for sure that you can schedule content directly in the apps. And that's it. Like, I'm almost positive most blog content, my blog, which I run my website on Wix, you can schedule out the blog content as well. So almost every platform has this ability. It's just funny because like we never really think about how every platform literally has this innately inside of them. But this week is just dedicated to publishing content. So it's all about doing the thumbnails, right? Creating the graphics for the thumbnails, creating the description, which I already have a template for in my notes because I do this so often. I use ChatGPT to incorporate everything I said in a video and then make me all of the tags, make me all of the titles, make me all of the best searchable titles and the best searchable tags for my niche. And this all goes into the publishing process. It's really just scheduling out the content once it's edited and allowing it to all just run on its own. Now, the beauty of this is as I'm creating this video, I'm also watching my YouTube dashboard have a video that I recorded last month, and it's just going up in views, and it's just insane because I created that last month. What this process really does is it allows you to really incorporate what's doing good on a monthly basis. So the planning phase is super important for understanding what actually is doing well on your YouTube channel or on your blog or on your social, and really capitalizing on what's doing really well to then create, edit, and publish for the next 3 weeks. So I hope this video was super helpful for you. It really was helpful for even me to understand how far I've come with this planning stuff. And I can't believe that I have a process that is finally just streamlined out of my way in a way that I can actually work on my business. I can actually do photography and video in the times that it makes sense versus battling with creating content and doing my business. We need to normalize that out of our day to day and into a very automated system and automated schedule. So, again, if you need help with kind of organizing all of this, basically what I've said in this video, whether it's a social media content calendar or getting your ideas out on a sheet, understanding how much time you actually have in the month, the task plan, the content cadence and pillar development tab in the Content Marketing Master are going to help you, and the social media content calendar bundle that has Google Sheets, Google Docs, and Google Slides templates for social media content calendar. All of that is going to help you so much. So please click those links below depending on what you need. Put in your email and that will get sent right to your inbox. So thank you so much again for tuning in for another video, and I will see you in the next one.